We live stream every Tuesday and Thursday p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
For service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do you
News
know that
run directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to
is
the dozens of men and women at
not
Fox News
contemplated on
Channel
it?
who I work with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record
question.
and said they've
In your
never
opening
seen
statement,
that.
Mr. Higgs, do you know that being drunk at
You
work?
so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared. How is that a complete clear? Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old. And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you? Those were false charges. Well, it was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I completely.
Words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. In other words,
Defense, will you support women continuing to have the opportunity to serve in combat roles?
Senator, first of all, thank you for your service, as we discussed extensively as well.
It's my privilege.
And my answer is yes, exactly the way that you caveated it. Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles, given the standards remain high, and we'll have a review to ensure the standards have not been eroded in any one of these cases. That'll be part of one of the first things we do at the Pentagon, is reviewing that in a gender-neutral way, the standards, ensuring readiness and meritocracy is front and center. But absolutely, it would be the privilege of a lifetime to, if confirmed, to be the Secretary of Defense for all men and women in uniform who fight so heroic. They have so many other options. They decide to put their right hand up for our country, and it would be an honor to have a chance to lead them.
Party. Why I like the new party? Number one, it's a group of people that's on a panel. We all have differences, but we all basically still come together at the end of the day. The new party for me is about unity. The new party for me is about educating people to the truth, letting people know what's been going on in our country. With that being said, shout out to the new party, man. We're going to keep it going with y'all.
Welcome to the new party. I'm Nora Christine.
I'm Gray Mars.
Vulgar, the Vulgar Locker Room.
Jenna.
85 Slim.
I'm Jenna Morgan.
And I'm Brian.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Jenna is back. So thank you to everyone that is on her network. We appreciate you. Please hit the like button on both sides. Hit the like button. We're also taking super chats on Jenna's side and on our side on the new party. But tonight is a very, very, very exciting night. It is a great pleasure and honor to welcome Brian Shapiro. Brian Shapiro, you guys may have seen him online. He also does FM radio in Las Vegas. So you can check out his website, pushingthelimits.live, where he streams on all networks. Brian, let everyone know about your show and also all the places that I didn't mention that you stream on.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me on. Been doing radio in Vegas for about 20 years. Been covering politics for about 10 years. On the Occupy Democrats network, they have 10 million subscribers on Facebook. The Washington Press Network, I'm on a local FM talk station here. In Vegas, YouTube is probably the best place to catch my show Monday through Friday. It's live 12 to 2. We get some great guests, anybody from Trump surrogates to Anthony Scaramucci to Dr. Jill Biden has done my show. I've interviewed Barack Obama. So Yeah, every day it's a different day with different guests. George Santos tomorrow. So, it's
Oh, I gotta check that out.
wide variety of guests. A lot of people call in, MAGA callers, Democrats, Republicans. So I like the mix of callers and take about an hour of calls a day across the country and talk about a lot of serious issues. And sometimes it gets heated.
Who is your favorite guest ever?
Oh boy. About a year before Jerry Springer died, I had the opportunity to interview him. He's certainly up there. I love Anthony Scaramucci. He does my show all the time. I've had some great comedians do my show, everybody, across the spectrum. So it'd be hard if I said there was one favorite, but certainly interviewing a former president was an honor. And I guess every day is something new, but I certainly have my favorites for sure.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming.
Sure.
So the first clip that we played, guys, was about Pete Hegseth. Man, that has to be the hardest job interview ever. Gray, as the Democrat on the line, what's your thoughts of the confirmation hearing? Should we confirm him?
As a veteran and all the allegations around Pete Hegseth, I would say no. I mean, I'm shocked. I mean, I heard he was in the National Guard. I would think they have a more decorated general. I saw them make the joke in the clip you played where he said, I'm not a general, and everybody started laughing, but this person's leading the DOD. So I think they need a lot more military experience if they're going to be ahead of the military.
Jenna, do you feel the same way? What do you think about what he said about women?
Well, I think he has a lot of actual military experience from the research I've done. I know, Gray, you were actually also in the military. I have not been. So when I see these awards and serving in certain places, I only can speak from a relatively unexperienced context. To me, I was watching bits of the hearing today, and I feel like some of the questions or the accusations get really personal. I don't know if I really need to know that he cheated on someone. I'm not sure that that's really going to be the deciding factor if I think he should be head of the Secretary of Defense. So that's my opinion. I think some of the questions are a little bit invasive, and I don't know how they really are relevant.
Vulgar.
If he can get the job done, put him in there. Like, all this stuff right now is allegations. There hasn't been anything, convictions or anything like that. And they're still running around trying to figure it out. So since y'all ain't figured it out and he's there, if he could do the job, put him in there.
Yeah, I agree with Boger.
So you're supporting him, 85.
I have to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about qualification, background. If he can handle the position, I believe he should be confirmed. I don't believe whatever allegations are being said should stop him from getting that position.
All right, Brian. I feel like you got a lot to say. Go ahead. Floor is yours.
Well, I don't know what qualifications he has other than serving. There are millions of people in the country that have served that would be better fit than him. He's a weekend anchor at Fox News who couldn't even get a daily show on Fox News. As far as allegations go, first of all, let's start with business. Okay, you're running a very large business. That's the way I look at it. The only business he ran it into the ground, and he was fired from that job. So he doesn't know how to run a business, let alone the business of working and working for the Secretary of Defense and being that guy. As far as allegations go, first of all, he said he didn't want women to serve just several months ago on a podcast. Okay, he didn't want women to serve on the battleground. Now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to be led to believe that he just changed his mind and he had a change of heart? Of course not. The only reason why he changed his mind is so he could get this position. And he was asked today in the hearings about, you think we should shoot protesters in the leg? That's what Donald Trump wanted people to do when he was president. And Hegseth pretty much went along with it. He's going to do and say whatever Donald Trump wants him to do and whatever Donald Trump wants him to say. And yeah, I do think when you're the second person in command and you have the nuclear codes, there's only two people, the president of the United States, and it would be Pete Hegseth if he gets the job. I think when you cheat on your first wife with someone you worked with, you cheat on your second wife and have a baby with a Fox News executive. You cheat on your third wife. You're alleged to have committed sexual assault. And you're alleged by your coworkers that you've showed up to work drunk. Yeah, I do think allegation after allegation does matter, and it doesn't have to be criminal to say to yourself, maybe this isn't the right guy for one of the most important jobs on the planet, let alone the United States of America. The way he's treated women his entire life is despicable. I think he's a despicable human being. And, you know, I don't think Donald Trump cares. He only picked this guy because he knows that Pete Hegseth will be loyal to him. That's all Donald Trump cares about. Again, millions of people have served. This is the guy that should be in this position. I think it's an absolute joke. It's a joke.
So who do you think should have been picked?
I think anybody that hasn't had allegations of rape, anybody that's served this country, that hasn't cheated on every woman he's ever been with, anybody who doesn't have allegations of being an alcoholic and showing up to work drunk, anybody that hasn't.
And can you name one specifically?
Sure. I would say Seth Moulton, who is a Purple Heart recipient. Anybody that has served this country honorably that doesn't have the baggage, Republican or Democrat, I don't care. Pick somebody in there that actually doesn't have the baggage that a Pete Hegseth had. Don't find somebody on Fox News that couldn't even get a Monday through Friday show on Fox News. That's a weekend, anchor at Fox News who's been wearing the Donald Trump knee pads for 8 years. Anybody that served this country honorably, that doesn't have the baggage. I mean, I can go through a list and
Do you not believe that people can repent and change? I mean, he's given his life over to Christ. Or do you think
anybody can say that? I do find it interesting that all of a sudden now that he's chosen for this position, that all of a sudden now he's found Christ. Where was it a year ago? I find it a cop-out. Listen, if you find God or Christ and you become a religious person, that's great. I don't have a problem with that. But I do find it very interesting that when people are put into a corner and when they're asked about their behavior, all of a sudden they find Christ like they lost their keys and they found their keys. I think people that use their religion as an excuse for their horrible behavior, I think it's reprehensible. That's exactly what Pete Hegseth has done. I mean, look at the way his own mother, who I think knows him better than any of us, his own mom said that he abuses women, that he's a woman abuser. And the only reason why she apologized was recently after Donald Trump chose him for this position. I'm going to listen to Pete Hegseth's mom. I'm going to listen to people that worked with Pete Hegseth. I'm going to listen to people that have known Pete Hegseth best, like his mother. I don't want a woman abuser, according to his mom, to be second in command and knowing our nuclear codes. I just don't think he's qualified.
Did his father say anything?
I haven't heard one word from his dad. I have no idea. That's a good question, by the way. I haven't heard from his dad. We've heard from his mom, though.
And also, as far as him making the comments about him not wanting women to fight, what if he still has that, but because he realized that's something that's a concession he has to make, right?
Well, that's that's pretty awful if that's true. Think about that for a minute. There was a woman that was questioning him today, Congresswoman, who lost both of her legs in war. I don't care what's between your legs. If you're willing to risk your life for this country and you have the abilities necessary, which I think a lot of women do have, for him to make a statement like that, I don't believe he just, had a change of heart. That's that's how he feels about women.
Well, I think he still believes it because I don't think women should fight.
Right.
Actually, I think he still believes that, but he's making a concession for the position because people are saying we want women to fight. So he's like, okay, I'm not going to change that.
But that's not what he said. But that's not what he said today. Then he lied. If what you're saying is true, and it might be,
that's what
he lied.
Politicians do. They wrap it up and make it sound good.
Well, he's never been a politician. He's not an elected official, number one. And number two, if you are an elected official, I don't want you to lie. I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of people out there that do lie, like Donald Trump. And I'm not saying Democrats don't lie either. But there are millions of people that have served this country. Donald Trump picks this guy. There are millions of people that could have been attorney general. Donald Trump picks Matt Gaetz. I mean, it goes to show you, as long as you're loyal and you kiss the ring, he's going to try to get you into it. Now, I'm glad Matt Gaetz won't be our attorney general, but I actually think Pete Hegseth. I actually think Pete Hegseth's going to be put in this position, which I think is absurd. I think it's just laughable. But, it's unfortunate. Look at the way he's treated women his whole life. To me, that's enough for me to say, I don't want that guy in this position. I don't think Pete Hegseth should be flipping burgers at McDonald's, let alone being the Secretary of Defense when he already ran. Look at the company he ran when it came to veterans. Just look it up. He ran it into the ground. They had to fire him because he put them in massive debt. We're talking about, if you want to call it a company, about 1,000 times bigger. He doesn't know how to run a business.
They said he was drunk there, right? He was drunk.
Yeah. They said he showed people that worked with him at Fox News said that he showed up drunk to work. He had to be carried out of bars. These aren't anonymous sources. There are actual names in these reports. Now, we didn't get to see those names, but people in Congress did in the report. So these are not, he said all day today that these were anonymous, statements. No, they were not. These are actual people with names, including his mom, by the way, who's not anonymous.
For sure.
Well, we don't really know the relationship between his mom and himself. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not
that's
for
why I
the
said,
fact that
what did his
he
father say?
showed up drunk. I'm not for that. I'll comment on the women stuff though, because number one, I'm not saying it's good, but a lot of men cheat. And also he was alleged sexual assault. It didn't say rape. It said alleged for sexual assault. And I just want to be very careful with those words because that could mean grope. It could mean several things, but
why did he pay her off? Why did he pay her off? Why? I didn't say he was convicted.
Just to get rid of it.
Sometimes these people do this to try to slander their names.
So he gave her an NDA so she can't talk about it. And in regard to the cheating, I hear what you're saying. There are a lot of men that cheat. Okay. But there are not a lot of men that will cheat on 3 different wives and will have a baby with a coworker while married to his second wife. So I agree with you. Sadly, there are a lot of cheaters out there, but look at this guy's history. And I don't know about you guys. My mom has called me names before, but she's never accused me of abusing women. You know why? Because I've never abused women in my life. She put out an actual email, and then they made her do a charade interview on Fox News. By the way, she didn't deny any of the things she said. She just claimed that he was a different man now. So I just think it goes to show you a lack of, at a minimum, horrendous judgment to a guy that could have our nuclear codes. Whether he did criminal stuff or not is one thing. Okay. But he didn't want that woman to talk. She should have been allowed to testify under oath of what she claims happened. He paid her off in an NDA, so she couldn't even speak to it. And I just think that's a big problem, guys.
Well, moving off of this, let's take one final thought or vote. Volker, is he going to get confirmed? Yes or no?
Yes.
Gray.
Republicans are going to fall in line. Yes.
85.
I agree with Gray. We're going to fall in line, make the country great again.
Yes.
Yeah, Brian, I know you don't want him to, but do you think he's going to get confirmed?
The only answer is yes, is because they're afraid of Cheeto Jesus. That's the only reason.
Not Cheeto Jesus.
That's the only reason.
No.
That's the only reason.
Will be. Yes, I think that will be the outcome.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We're going to switch gears here. We're going to go into our main topics of the night because this was like a last minute thing I added on. Well, today, the other big news was I think we are a step closer to a deal with Israel and Hamas, a ceasefire. Let's watch the clip and then we'll give comments.
Release deal can be secured in Gaza as negotiations continue today in Qatar. Now, 2 officials involved in these talks told the Associated Press that Hamas has accepted a draft agreement for the plan. And speaking yesterday, President Biden said a deal was close. CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio brings us more from Tel Aviv.
And an Israeli government official who we have been asked to cite as anonymous just told CBS News the latest outlines of a deal. First, in phase 1, Hamas would release 33 hostages that would be made up of women, the elderly, the sick, and some children. And that would be in exchange for some higher number of Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons. Now, that official told us that number depends on how many hostages are alive because they have a higher value in any exchange. As for Israel's military presence in Gaza, that official said that assets, which we're understanding to mean military assets, would remain in Gaza, and the IDF would establish a security buffer zone between southern Gaza and Israel. And yesterday, a separate Israeli official told CBS News that the IDF would not leave until all the hostages were returned. As for the people of Gaza, humanitarian aid, which is so desperately needed right now at the height of winter, will also be surged. The latest number we're hearing right now is over 46,500 people who have been killed since October 7th, 2023. That only crossed the 46,000 mark just last week. Now, pushing ahead to a phase 2, talks on that would start during phase 1, and with the goal of releasing younger hostages and Israeli soldiers. That official also said they are working with both U.S. administrations. We're talking about the outgoing Biden White House and the incoming Trump White House.
Jenna, are we going to see a deal before January 20th or the week of January 20th?
I hope so. I mean, otherwise, Trump also has the hammer coming down if there is not a deal, if the hostages are not released. I think this is a great sign. I think this is wonderful. I know Israel wants peace, and if Hamas is willing to cooperate and also allow for a peace treaty, amazing.
For sure. I completely agree with Jenna, and me hearing them say that is both administrations having something to do with it. I also think it's good. I do think, even though I'm a Democrat, that Trump being so unpredictable is why this is being speeded up.
85, are we going to see a deal?
Oh man, I'm the same way. I really hope we do. Because Trump will bring the smoke. So I don't think they want the drama. I think they want to really close that deal really quickly. Hopefully before January 20th.
Bulger, is Trump the reason why we're seeing a deal?
I'm gonna go with 85 on that. They're probably scared of him, scared of Trump and because when he says something, he does it. So I can see that. I'm not too well versed on the conflict, but it seems like every so often we come to these treaties. So what is this, like permanent, or is this 6 months and then we're back at it again? That's the part that confuses me.
The person this affects the most personally on the cast is Jenna. She has family in Israel.
Yeah. I mean, Israel has wanted peace for years. Palestine's one that always says no after peace treaties are made. So who knows? Hopefully this is the final one, but who knows?
Yeah. Brian, what's your thoughts? I'm sure you have some sort of insider knowledge. You speak to political people all day long. Is this real or is this fake?
I agree with what Jenna just said. If Israel decided to raise the white flag, it wouldn't exist. You are dealing with a lot of people that do not think Israel should exist at all. So it's very difficult to negotiate with people and want peace with a group of people that do not think Israel should even exist. That's number one. I'm not a big Benjamin Netanyahu fan. I do not believe that Donald Trump is the reason why there might be a peace deal. The guy who writes love letters to Kim Jong-un and sends COVID test kits to Vladimir Putin during COVID is probably not the guy that the world is afraid of. So I would respectfully disagree with that. But this would be a great thing. I think we all could agree. Hostages need to be released. I feel for these people and their families. It's awful. I don't care whatever the reason is. Let's just get them freed and get them back to their families. Hamas has infiltrated themselves amongst the innocent Palestinian people. Okay, Iran has funded Hamas. They are a terrorist group that's been around since the mid-'80s. Okay, they need to be conquered. I don't want an innocent child to die in Gaza just as much as I don't want an innocent child to die in Israel. But the reason why this is happening right now is because of what Hamas did. They decided to butcher a bunch of innocent Israelis. We cannot forget that. And listen, I call out Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib because I think they're awful human beings. I believe they're anti-Semitic and they're terrible. And I wish more Democrats would call them out. But with that being said, Israel is still our ally. We need to, doesn't mean they don't have a responsibility for the least amount of casualties as possible, but this needs to stop. Hamas needs to be conquered. They're just as bad as Al-Qaeda or any other terrorist organization. So yeah, I agree with what Jenna said, and I hope that these hostages get released. But no, I don't think it has anything to do with Donald Trump.
Okay. So we're going to go into our next topic because I really want to ask you this. What is considered anti-Semitic at this point? Is it when you're questioning things? Is it saying outrageous things? Let me play the clip and we'll respond. Because I do think what I'm about to play does not express the views of the new party. I think this guy was an anti-Semite. It's Bobby Fischer. I don't know if you guys know who Bobby Fischer is. He's one of the most famous chess players in the world and probably the most famous anti-Semite. And there's a surprising twist at the end. Watch the clip.
Bobby bounced around Europe and Asia. Stuck overseas, he missed the 1997 funeral of his mother, Regina.
In the early 1990s, according to one chess grandmaster who knows them both, they were talking almost every day.
Ultimately, he was very close to his mother, and it must have been a great tragedy for him that he couldn't spend those last years with her, that he...
These wild anti-American, anti-Semitic rants that he gives on Philippine radio.
Well, this is all wonderful news. It's time for the U.S. to get their heads kicked in. It's time to finish off the U.S. once and for all. I say death to President Bush. I say death to the United States. United States, the Jews. The Jews are criminal people. They mutilate their children. They're murderous, criminal, thieving, lying bastards. They made up the Holocaust. There's not a word of truth to it.
He was increasingly obsessed with these anti-Semitic issues. He wasn't playing chess anymore. So this was taking up more and more space.
He said things like all the Jews in America should be rounded up. I mean, it's horrendous.
Close down all the synagogues, arrest all the Jews, execute hundreds of thousands of Jewish ringleaders.
Despite having a Jewish mother, Bobby has never considered himself Jewish.
His anti-Semitism was a mindset. It was a sort of psychopathic illness which he couldn't shake off.
A secret about Bobby's paternity was discovered.
There wasn't a whole lot known about Gerhard Fischer, and when we started digging into it, we discovered that, in fact, Gerhard Fischer had never actually really been part of Bobby's life, that he never actually ever entered the United States.
All evidence points to the father being Paul Nemenyi, who was a Hungarian physicist who died in the early 1950s.
It wasn't clear whether they ever actually told Bobby that Paul was his real father.
Beyond the physical resemblance, Bobby and Paul Nemenyi seem to share certain personality traits.
Nemenyi was a very interesting character. According to one former coworker who we interviewed, he had a habit of carrying soap around in his pockets at all times so that he could wash his hands after he touched door handles.
He was an animal.
Parallels in the way that they thought.
There remains one final twist to the revelation of Bobby's biological father. Paul Nemenyi was Jewish, and so Bobby Fischer, arguably the world's most vocal anti-Semite, is the product of not one, but two Jewish parents.
Paul Nemenyi's life and career were ruined by the Nazis. He was fired from his university teaching job in Germany because he was Jewish. And to have a son then who has somehow grasped onto anti-Semitism as a cause is incredibly ironic.
The absolute criminals, the Jews. The Jews are behind this. It's a filthy Jew country.
The explanation, then, of Bobby's resentment remains open for debate.
I think my father, at the end of the day, he viewed Bobby as a guy who had unfortunately lost his mind.
What a twist, right? Gray, you were the one that brought me this clip and wanted to talk about it tonight. What is your thoughts on this obvious anti-Semite?
Yeah, I'm an avid chess player. I'm self-taught, so I know who Bobby Fischer is. He's considered the best chess player of all time. And I think this goes to show, how racism or prejudice really is a construct of something that we make up. This reminds me of the Dave Chappelle episode. I don't know if any of you guys seen this, when he's blind, but he's in the Ku Klux Klan and he hates black people, and that's what I would compare this story to.
Bulger, what's your thoughts?
I'm gonna pass on this one. I know him as a chess player, but I didn't know a lot of him going crazy and making those type of remarks.
85, Mr. We don't talk about race. Let's not talk about it. What do you think about all the things he said and about the biggest, I guess, what would you call that? Like karma of it all, or?
Yeah, I'm not even educated on that scenario, so I think that's way out of my league, to be honest with you.
Jenna, how do you feel hearing that as someone Jewish, someone being Jewish and being anti-Semitic?
I think number one, even if you don't know about this topic, you can 100% comment on the fact that everything that man said is completely repulsive and disgusting. If anyone says that about any type of group anywhere, they need to be looked at and spoken to in a certain way. Number two, he sounds exactly like Hitler. And actually, Hitler, it was said that his mother had an affair with one of the Rothschilds. So actually that in his lineage, because he's a bastard child of a Rothschild, that he was also Jewish. And how funny that he turned on the Jews as well. So yeah, I think this man either had some type of trauma or something. I don't know what his childhood was like. Did he know his mother was Jewish? Yes. And in the Jewish religion, if you came out of a Jewish body, you're Jewish. So even if your father is not and your mother is Jewish, you are Jewish. Yes, do you need to go through, of course, bar mitzvahs and do mikvahs and to actually be a part of Judaism is a bit different than just claiming that you're Jewish or to be Jewish, excuse me. I don't know who this man is. I did look him up today when I knew we were talking about this. And I just think it's disgusting. And also it's a testament to a lot of people feel this way. A lot of the things that I see on social media today are very anti-Semitic. People calling for the end of Israel, that's anti-Semitic. And I don't care how you look at it, one way or the other. No, I'm not talking about Judaism, but you are, because that is the Jewish homeland. So when you're calling for that, for the end of the state of Israel, that is anti-Semitic. You can't flip it or turn it any other way. And I'm completely shocked that anyone, again, even if you don't know about this topic, he just made the most radical claims and statements, I don't even want to repeat them, towards a certain group of people.
I don't agree with his statements at all. What I'm saying is I just don't want to elaborate on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Same here. It's such a sensitive subject.
That's all.
Like, because I don't know about it, it's best to just stay out of it. But yeah, what he said.
But so this is my point I want to say. This is it, you guys. Nearly half of the country is anti-Semitic in some way. But I think, why don't you guys want to comment on it is my point where I'm getting at. I feel like people are so fearful to comment on it. And this is what I was saying. What is considered anti-Semitic at this point? Because I will comment on it. I think he hated himself. I think he was a hateful person. And I think he was disgusting. It's just like black people that are passing for white. It was the same thing that happened in the 1800s when there was segregation. So, I mean, I'm not going to say it's the same in the sense of.
I was just going to say that why can't we call out all bigotry? Whether you're anti-Semitic or you judge someone based on your skin color or your religion, you're a bigot and you're just an awful person. Why can't we all just say that? I don't know why. Now, I know you guys maybe don't want me to interject Donald Trump in this. I'm also Jewish. The week that Kanye West, was praising Adolf Hitler, and let me be clear, anybody that praises Adolf Hitler is just an awful human being. The week that Kanye West did that, what did Donald Trump do? He invited Kanye West and a guy by the name of Nick Fuentes, who is doesn't even believe the Holocaust happened, to dinner at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, this is one of many issues I have with some of our leaders. Okay, we need to call this stuff out. It doesn't matter whether you're racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic. We need to call out this stuff. Okay. As a whole, I will always speak out on it, whether it's against black people or Jews, any minorities, any religion. I don't care if you're Islam or Jewish. We should all be able to call it out and say, this guy is an awful person. I don't care what happened to him in his childhood. I know a lot of people that have had very traumatic childhoods. They don't turn into anti-Semitics or racists, right? This is a bad guy who's probably a Klansman. But maybe this is the kind of guy that Donald Trump would invite to dinner. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Donald Trump claims he didn't know who Nick Fuentes was.
But he knew. Okay, let's just say you're right on that. Let's just say you're right on that. Let's assume he didn't know who Nick Fuentes was, which, by the way, I don't believe, because he's been asked about David Duke, and 20 years ago he knew exactly who David Duke was, but all of a sudden he ran for president. Oh, I don't know who that guy is, so I don't believe him. But for argument's sake, let's just say you're right. A week before, Kanye West was on the Alex Jones show, and he said Hitler was a great guy. A week later, Trump invites him to dinner. What would happen if Joe Biden did that? What would happen if Joe Biden invited a white guy who called black people the N-word, and then Joe Biden invited him to dinner? We would all be very upset at that, rightfully
And
so.
I want to say that I feel so blessed that I was
my
born
bad.
in. I feel so blessed that I was born in the 80s, because, like I told Jenna when we first met, I met Holocaust survivors, and I feel like my daughter's generation, they will not know this. And this is the sad thing about the stuff that's going around, because I truly believe in my heart the Holocaust happened. You can't tell me differently. And it's like some of this stuff is just so outrageous. Like, you mean to tell me like they had the numbers? Like, how would you fake? You know what I mean? Like, I met them. I saw them with my own eyes. So I get what you're saying, Brian, and I think that they're erasing history, and it's very sad. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But
Ava.
what is racism and what is anti-Semitism? It's ignorance. That's all it is. You're very ignorant. Either you're raised a certain way by racist or anti-Semitic parents, and you're ignorant. When you judge somebody based on skin color or religion, when you don't know anything about them, you're ignorant. That's what bigotry is, really.
Yes. And that's my one fear with actually a little bit of how free social media is, how you can really, especially spaces like X and Rumble, you really can say anything. You know, people put up these documentaries from Rumble and they're very well put together and they're amazing, have a lot of views, and it's easy to be like, oh yes, that's history. It's very difficult, right? I'm all for free speech, but you border on the line of changing the narrative with either someone has a huge following or they make a really good piece of content that's like visually pleasing and entertaining, and then it gets a lot of views. That really, because I have not heard people speak so much on denying the Holocaust as I have in the past year. I really didn't see that growing up at all. Maybe because I was from a Jewish community, but I see it like all the time all over X. That is disgusting. And that's where I do fear a bit about how free and open social media has become. But also, I'm for free speech, so it's a difficult line to border, but it's a little alarming.
I just wanted to piggyback on what you said earlier, Brian, really quick. Trump did denounce white supremacy and David Duke on the first debate with him and Hillary Clinton when George Wallace asked that question.
And on a debate stage with Joe Biden, he told the Proud Boys, a known white supremacist group, to stand back and stand by. So I think he can say a lot of things, but I think actions speak louder than words. Donald Trump
stand by for what though? What did they stand back and stand by for?
So the Proud Boys, obviously, and the right-wing white supremacist fringe groups all support Donald Trump. Donald Trump was asked on a debate stage with Joe Biden, will you denounce the Proud Boys? The Southern Poverty Law Center has called them a white supremacist right-wing fringe group.
I remember all of this stuff you're stating, but I also remember how the media misled it and hyped it up as well.
Okay, well, I can't speak for the media. I can only speak for myself. And when Donald Trump says he doesn't want black people counting his money in casinos, he wants Jews counting his money. He said that in Playboy magazine and never denied it. That's all I need to know. He also has one of the whitest administrations. He hired one black guy, urban development. Okay. So, when you go to Mar-a-Lago, you don't see people like us, normal, everyday people.
So you believe Donald Trump is a racist?
Well, it's not that I believe it. It's his actions and his behavior. Look at all the discrimination.
He dated a black woman in the past,
behaviors, but you're stating things that he said.
So
and you also know that he dated a black woman in the past.
So if you date a black woman, does that mean you can't be racist?
If you racist, you wouldn't date a black woman.
Really?
I'm keeping it real. Yeah.
I know.
If you really racist, you wouldn't do it.
I respectfully.
Let me ask you this.
I disagree.
Do you think Dr. Umar would date a white girl?
I don't know who's Dr. Umar. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Brian, you don't know who he is, Brian. We got to bring you back.
Jenna
Man. We got to educate you.
Jenna just found out too on our last show.
Yeah,
so
I just found out. And
Yeah, I don't
he would
I
not
don't know who
take it.
Dr. Umar is. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's the blackest black person on planet Earth. Let's put it that
Okay.
way. He don't
Okay.
believe in anything mixture. He believes that if you date a white woman and you're black, the whole mindset is messed up. You know, that's how he thinks. It's
But
people
hold
who
on,
think
Slim.
like that.
We don't want to get too much off topic.
You're right. Let me back off.
I wanted to say, when y'all get done, I wanted to say something that may go to what Nora was saying earlier, as far as defining anti-Semitism and racism. And it's something that Brian said when you say judging people based off their color. So I'm going to speak from being black. I don't want to speak anything dealing with Jewish. So is it racist? I don't think it is. Normally, if I walk down the street and I see a black guy with a hoodie, dressed a certain way in a certain area, I'm going to feel a certain way until I get to know that person. The same way as if I seen a police officer with a police uniform, I'm going to assume that he's upholding the law, and that's what he does. There are certain stereotypes that are portrayed like in Hollywood and things like that with black people, that they have a certain car, you know, if it's Charger, Challenger, certain things like that. They got, you know, the look to them. Would you say that's racist to assume that they could be
So Vulgar, we all have biases inherently, right? We all have biases, no question. But I think what truly makes you a racist or an anti-Semite is if you treat somebody differently, right? We could all have inherent biases, but that doesn't mean that you're a blatant racist, right? Bias, I think, is different. Believing a stereotype, okay, that's one thing. But calling somebody names or treating somebody differently or making assumptions about somebody and the way you treat them, I think are two completely different things. And what 85 Slim just said, somebody just made a comment, which I agree with, which was back in the slavery days, slave owners dated black women. So it is very possible to be a racist and still have relations with somebody who is black or Jewish or anything, right? We all have our biases. That's what I'm trying to say. That doesn't make you a horrible, bad person.
So what defines racism then? Because
what defines racism? Treating somebody differently because of their race without knowing anybody about them. You might see somebody on with a hoodie, but I'll be honest with you. If I see somebody dressed a certain way, if I see a white guy with a shaved head with tattoos all over his body, I might, at 3 o'clock in the morning in a bad neighborhood, I might be a little afraid. Same thing with a black guy, right? Doesn't mean I'm racist towards people with tattoos. Doesn't mean I'm racist, right?
Yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is, if it's a white guy, it's like, it's okay. But if it's a black person doing it and then a white person say something, a lot of people will come out like Benjamin Crump and say, oh, they were racist.
Well, Benjamin Crumb's an idiot. He's an idiot. I'm not going to. I call him Benjamin Crumbs because he's always taking the crumbs from the families after tragedies. I am not. I've had him on my show, and he's a. Can I swear here? I don't know. He's an idiot. Okay,
What
he's
was he
despicable.
like? What was he like? Can you tell our audience
All that.
what he was like?
Yeah, I interviewed him. All that guy cares about is money. He is a con artist. He doesn't care about black people. He doesn't care about these young men that are dying. Right? He always wants to make his TV appearances and make money. He doesn't act.
You have to get on Tariq Nasheed and Dr. Umar on your show, please. I'm begging you.
Okay. Fair enough.
They're like taking over the black spaces. Your show would get like so many views. I'm not
I'm
even kidding.
going to tell you something. I did a black space like 2 weeks ago. It was brutal. It was a MAGA space. And the attacks that I got just for my skin color alone, they didn't like the fact that I'm anti-Donald Trump. And that's fine. But instead of having a civil discussion like what we're having, they insulted me for my skin color. They insulted me for my religion. I mean, it was pretty bad. So I might not be going into. I go into a lot of MAGA spaces, but that one was pretty brutal.
You had MAGA guys criticizing you for your skin color, for real?
Yeah, they said my opinions weren't valid because I'm white. They questioned my heritage. They're just ignorant. They were just ignorant.
Sounds like
There are
what we
plenty
go
of,
through every
They were
week on here.
rhinos. They sound like rhinos.
well, it was brutal. It was tough. And I mean, listen, I've had Larry Elder on my show. I've had Leo Terrell on my show. I want to get Candace
You like
Owens on.
Larry Elder?
Oh yeah,
I
I would
like
love
Larry Elder,
If
man.
you look up my YouTube page, we got into a screaming match for like 30 minutes.
Oh, I gotta
Yeah, I
go
want to
watch
see
it.
that.
Yeah, he
Oh,
wouldn't
I'm
answer
trying
my
to get
questions.
Candace.
He wouldn't answer any of my questions. I mean, I asked him, because this is when he was running for president several years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I asked
Mhm.
him, I said, if Donald Trump didn't say that the election was stolen before January 6th, and if he didn't say that the Democrats cheated, does January 6th happen? He wouldn't answer it. And then he started bringing up Hillary Clinton. So it's like, it's hard for me to respect somebody when they're not, even if I disagree with them, no problem. But answer the question. And like, it's just this whataboutism he does is, yeah. But, I appreciated him coming on, but he just wouldn't answer a lot of my questions.
For sure.
See,
Nora.
I don't know if we going too long, but no, that was kind of my issue with not responding. I'm like, what? I think these terms need to be defined. It need to be some organization that set the standard of what's racism or what's anti-Semitic. That's why I don't get into it, because I'm not Jewish or Jew, so I don't get into
Yeah, but
it.
I'm not. Can I ask you though? I'm not black, as you can clearly see. I'm very white,
Yeah.
but my complexion, I look like a ghost. But that's another story. But like, if anybody white uses the N-word, I'm the first person to call it out. If anybody judges somebody because of their skin color, like, you know what I mean? Like I always, I don't listen. I listen to black people. I don't know what it's like to be pulled over because of the color of my skin. Here's the fundamental big difference between black people and Jewish people. When people look at me, they don't know I'm Jewish. They look at you, they know you're black, right? I don't know what that's like to be followed around in an electronics store and people think I'm going to shoplift because of the color of my skin. It's awful. So when I hear stories like this, I always try to do my best, to call it out. But, hatred is hatred, man. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, right? Hatred is hatred. And that's why, I try to call it out. And I try to listen to people that have different upbringings from me. I don't know what it's like to be judged because of the color of my skin. It's horrible. But I can still, we can still call it out.
Brian, because I know you're going to leave soon, I just want to play this one clip and then have you comment. And then we'll go into the final clips of the night, guys. So the biggest reason why we picked this topic is this week on X, Ian Carroll, who is a big conspiracy theorist, I guess that's the best way to say it. He and Elon Musk were going back and forth, and he felt like he ratioed him because he was explaining about why people have issues with Israel. So again, the views of these clips do not support the new party. We don't, agree, disagree with any of these clips. So I just want to get your opinion on one of them. This is where he talks about AIPAC, because I would love to get your thoughts on AIPAC and the focus on it.
Just be clear. I'm not saying that all Jews are in on some Jewish evil conspiracy to run the world, okay? That would be a straw man argument, and that's not what I'm claiming. We're talking about Israel here. And these are just some of the most obvious ones. First off, that AIPAC has purchased the seats of like 90% of our Congress, give or take. I made a whole thread with all my sources, and in this case, I used a video that I made myself where I cited a whole bunch of sources about AIPAC.
Okay. AIPAC purchased the seats of about 90% or more of our current Congress. AIPAC is currently ranked 199th in lobbying, 20th in contributions, which is still a lot. However, it's hard to purchase 90% of Congress when you are 20th in contributions. Does anybody give a fuck about the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Realtors, American Hospital Association, Blue Cross Blue Shield, pharmaceutical company, the manufacturers? That's Amazon? Fucking Amazon? Anyone? No, the Jews aren't buying our fucking congressmen. They're doing what they have always done and trying to donate to their own causes. That's what PACs are. PACs are just, hey, I have a cause and we got a lot of money. You want some money? Do my cause. I personally think that all PACs should be illegal, right? We should have a salary cap. Boom. Fucking just everybody's on the same playing field. But that's not the way it works right now. Until we change that, just stop fucking thinking that everything's the Jews, all right? This is 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, and you guys are looking for Kevin Bacon as a Jew.
We have a super chat. It's one of Jenna's fans. Dude's got some gorgeous eyes. Is that weird? So the second guy that you guys see, he's actually like he got a lot, like I think 1 million views. He made a counter to Ian Carroll and he debunked everything. So we're gonna break it up and talk about it some more. But Brian, since I know you have to go soon, what is your thoughts on the whole? Because I'm sure you've heard it. That's the biggest
Yeah.
argument that they feel like AIPAC has too much control. And I actually learned a lot, and I did my own research. And I'm like, damn, AIPAC really don't got that much control as they make it seem.
No, Carroll's a complete liar. That last guy is 150% correct. It's just like people that say Jews run Hollywood. It's another trope. It's not true. They're no different than the NRA, which I despise, that buy Republicans every day for their causes. So that's my personal opinion on that. They're no different than any other PAC organization. They're not buying up 90% of Congress. That's a lie. It's just simply not true. I don't know where he's getting that information from, but apparently he's the media because according to Elon Musk, we're the media now, and it doesn't matter whether you have credible sources. You can just say whatever you want and hope it sticks. Again, it's just a trope. It's not true. And it's sad that, there are some people out there that believe it. It's just simply not true.
Gray, what's your thoughts?
I think the reason that they're getting these allegations, and I talked to Jenna about this before because she was like the first Republican Jewish person that I got to know. So I just think that because they're donating, Jews normally donate to Democrats, and then now they're donating to Republicans because of October 7th. So I think they're trying to control everything due to that aspect of having money in both parties, essentially. That's what I think.
Jenna, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everything Brian said and Gray said. Ian Carroll also spoke a lot about how why isn't this, they aren't a foreign agent, and they're not directly working with the Israeli government. They're funded by American Jewish people. And that's just we're not funded by the Israeli government. And I watched Ian Carroll's entire thread and all his video clips he put in there. And I just sat there writing down everything he said and being like, that's wrong. That's wrong. So, and then I read the comments, and the comment section supporting him is scary. It is. And again, just like Brian said, and like I was saying earlier, we are the media. That's actually frightening. Again, I'm for free speech, but people are putting content out there. Of course, us that are, we're making content, right? And there's tons of other people making content, political content being the news. And it is really, you got to be careful with what you say. And I am an extremely small content creator, but I really make sure that I'm not just talking out of my butt, or I'm not just like trying to swing a narrative, because you actually have to take that into consideration today, knowing that the most influential person on Twitter right now, Elon Musk, and maybe really in the world, I mean, he can say a story and then all of a sudden we're all going to focus on the UK grooming gangs. It's like he can change the narrative and the political climate in a second. So if he says we're the media now, and then people are putting stuff out, that's what makes me nervous.
Can I just add something real quick of what you just said? Freedom of speech, as you know, pertains to the government. For example, you can hold up a sign on a public sidewalk that says, "I hate Jews." The government can't arrest you, right? The government can't be involved, but it's still going to have repercussions on your job, maybe friends, family. We're talking about private businesses here. I got into a debate with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on my show last year because he's all about censorship and freedom of speech. Freedom of speech does not pertain to private business. Private business can do whatever they want, right? If they want to kick somebody off their platform, they can. Now, I think Elon Musk is despicable, and I disagree with what's going on X. I just think it's a cesspool of bigotry and hatred. However, unfortunately, it's a private business, and Elon Musk owns it. Now, I don't think he should allow the hatred and the bigotry and the misinformation, the medical misinformation. And I think the only reason why Jeff Bezos and the owner of Facebook are now changing their tune a little bit is because Donald Trump won. It's the only reason why they're doing that. They're not doing that because they like Donald Trump. They've been blasting Donald Trump literally for years. So, you guys are Trumpers out there. Come on, man. You got to disagree with me on some of this stuff, right? Nora, how do I convert you?
I
How do I
laugh.
convert
Well,
you, Noah?
okay, so let
You
me tell
can't.
you this, Brian.
Nah.
You can't.
I was a Democrat for many, many years, but
Yeah.
Biden shoot the pooch. Like this was a horrible last 4 years for me personally, professionally, financially. I don't like the
Okay,
gender
so
stuff. Like, and
Yeah.
also
so
I'm a
for you,
Christian, so I didn't like where the Democrats were going. I'll be honest
you're
with
a
you. But
you're a Christian. So how do
yes,
you feel
but
about Donald Trump selling Bibles?
obviously I don't listen, I don't worship Trump. Let's just put that out there. When he had what's that guy's name? The one that didn't make it
I
through.
didn't say you worship him, but you're a Christian.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the adultery and the liable sexual abuse and 5 kids with 3 different women?
Everybody has a past, Brian.
But
And
yeah, the
also
cheating one always throws me off. I don't know.
but he cheated 10 plus years ago. I don't know where his heart is
That's
at now.
the
Like
alleged sexual assaults. I work in an industry where I have literally heard women admit that they are falsely accusing their boss because they can get away with it. I've heard this way more than
So
once.
that might be true. That might be true, but he was found liable with the jury of his peers. He has 25 other women that have accused him of sexual assault or rape, including his ex-wife in a court deposition under oath. So should we be led to believe the man who says grab him by the pussy, all these women are lying? And Donald Trump is the guy that's telling the truth. By the way,
It's
the
only
guy that
25. He's Donald Trump. It should be 500 women. This is
And
some
why
women
is he
do
not
it
in
when
prison?
how many
men
women have
cheat on them.
accused? Why? Because he has money?
Yes, exactly. That's
How
Puff
many
Daddy
women have
had
accused?
money.
That's
How many
exactly
women?
Epstein
How many?
had money.
That is
Giselle
How many
Maxwell
women have
had money.
accused? How many women have accused Mark Cuban of rape? How many women have accused Jeff Bezos of
we don't
rape?
know. We have to go look on the internet.
They
they
gonna be
probably
No,
on
we
them
do
tapes.
know.
exactly.
We
They
do
gonna be
know.
on them tapes. You gonna see.
He was
But Brian,
found.
I want to ask you a question because
Sure.
you share the same last name as Ben Shapiro.
Oh,
So
he's the worst.
like
He's the worst.
Jen is Jewish, right? You're Jewish, and I talked to a guy on Twitter Spaces about this.
Yeah.
Nora was there, and he said to me, he said, "Well, if you pick the left, you're picking a Palestinian flag that doesn't like you, and then if you pick the right, you're picking
Yeah.
a Nazi flag that doesn't like you." Do you agree with that?
No. I think there's always going to be bad people, not to use Donald Trump's words, but I guess I will here. There's always going to be bad people on both sides, right? I don't think now that the Democrat Party does have an issue to an extent with anti-Semitism, but make no mistake about it. The people with those Palestinian signs that were protesting outside DNC were not people that voted for Kamala Harris. Okay, those are extremists. They did not vote for Kamala Harris. They called Joe Biden Genocide Joe. I think that there's going to be bad people on both. There's some good Republicans that are not bigoted and racist in nature. But I will say this, when it comes to the policies of 2025, which is the party that is anti-gay marriage? Which is the party that goes after transgenders 24/7, banning books? They'd rather talk about drag queens and drag queen reading as a threat to our kids than talking about guns and gun violence.
But
So
Brian,
You don't think
respectfully,
drag queen
mhm.
and that stuff is more of a threat to
sure,
our
let's
kids
talk.
than guns?
Let's talk about that. Can you name me one drag queen reading in this country where a child was killed? Give me one example, because I'll give you
No,
thousands of
but
examples.
I can, yes, no, but I can name it out. I'm going to tell you why, Brian. When
Okay.
you allow children to see that and it's normalized in front of them, they then want to go mutilate their bodies and they're deformed for life. That's
So,
the problem with it.
so your take is if an 8 or a 9-year-old kid goes to a drag queen reading, they immediately want transgender surgery? That's your take?
Yes, yes, and they
Can you give me
normalize
an
giving
example of a
hormones.
child that? Can you give me an
I'm going to
example?
tell
Do you
you
know
this.
what?
Their minds are
I
not
went to
developed yet. They're being exposed to that at a young age.
I didn't say I agree with 9-year-olds getting
Mhm.
transgender surgery, but I think there's a difference between saying that you go to drag queen reading and that makes you want. I went to a drag queen reading to see what it was all about. The message was be happy with who you are. Everybody was having a good time. I didn't hear any drag queens say you must be transgender. The guy who you
Well,
support,
I would
Donald
like
Trump.
to answer finish what I was saying before you cut me off.
Sure.
So I
Sorry.
went to a drag queen show 2 years ago, and
Mhm.
I'm very open-minded. I support transgenders. I support the LGBTQ. I don't care what you want to do as an adult. I spend my money, so that tells you I support. I went. When I went, I wanted to walk out. I was appalled. They brought children on the stage, and I felt like it was not the place for the children to be there. They were half naked. They were gyrating their bodies. They were making penis jokes. It was disgusting. Children should not be around that. And as far as the drag queen readings, I can't comment. But as far as adult drag queen shows, I stand on that that I don't agree that children should be around that. And again, and then they were telling the little girl that was there that wanted to be a little boy that wanted to be a little girl, whatever. They were transgender child. Let me be correct. They were telling them, oh, you're going to go get your hormones next week. This was a kid. What does a 10-year-old know? Your mind is still developing. My daughter, 1 week, she likes Hello Kitty. The next week, she likes Barney. Like, you can't, like,
You
these
saw this
kids
in person?
are kids.
You saw
Yes,
this in person?
Greg, I told you
So,
about this.
can
When
I
went
ask
to
you
Angela's
something?
show.
Adult drag queen readings are supposed to be exactly what they call it, 18 and over. If a child under the age of 18 is seeing any bit of nudity, you said they are half naked, guess what? That's against the law, and that should be called out. I'm specifically talking about drag queen reading where there's no alcohol, no vulgarities, nobody's pushing people to be transgender. And the reason why I brought that up is because Republicans seem to, and MAGA Republicans, seem to talk more about drag queens being a threat to our kids than the clergy. Thousands of clergy members have molested children. So why don't Republicans say don't go to church? Give me one example of a drag queen in this country during drag queen reading that molested a child. I can give
Brian,
you thousands
I'm not
of.
saying they molest them.
Well, we
They
don't know that. We
indoctrinate them
don't
and they
know.
show them it's okay to go and deform your body at 10 years old. That is sick. That is demonic. And I stand on that. You fired me up now, Brian, because I'm going to tell you, I don't back down about my babies. My children, I will stand
Who's
on
forcing
protecting
your-
the children of this country because
Who's-
it is not right.
Who's forcing your kids to be transgender?
The education.
No one is, but the point.
the fact that
Well,
it's
go
being
ahead, Boger,
taught.
speak.
Now
Just
I'm
the
gonna let
fact
you
that a
go, but
child
that
even hears this, like that, oh, their friend may be it. Like it's a very confusing time growing up. And one little notion for me is I was a professional dancer for 30 years. Well, 10 years, but I've danced for 30 years. So I've been around that group. Okay. Number one, the most sexually provocative group of people in the world. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. Number two, the fact that when you're young and you're just trying to understand puberty and your body changing, and then you're introduced to like, oh, do I maybe like girls? Do I maybe like guys, like same sex, I mean? Or am I meant to be a guy? Am I meant to be a girl? It is just too confusing. It's too early. I'm fine later in life. I'm all for that if that's really how you feel. But when sex in general, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual, when sex is introduced too early to a child, it is unhealthy. No matter how you introduce it, there is a certain age. What is the exact age? I can't tell you the answer to that. I would say for me, I'm like thinking maybe 13 or something. We can talk to our kids about it. But I think when children are being exposed to this in schools, I don't really, I've seen these drag readings, but I don't think they're like happening all the time. So, but like pride parades in schools or even like the pride parade in New York, there's literal children there and these guys have their body parts out.
Maybe.
And that is weird to me. That is very strange. And maybe at the drag readings, there's no sexual assault happening, but I don't know what happens outside of these. I mean, we just saw that couple, I mean, I know they weren't drag, but they were a gay couple that got arrested for molesting their disabled adopted children. So there's corruption on all parts. I'm not going to deny that, church clergies and priests haven't done heinous acts. Of course they have. And that's what sucks about all this, right? Because one person then changes the reputation for everyone in that group.
Okay, well, let me, if I may, just a quick comment of why I brought that up. So I don't know if you guys know who Nancy Mace is, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. So I would assume you guys know. So she didn't want a trans woman colleague using her bathroom. And for a month, she tweeted not thousands, but hundreds of tweets talking about how horrible it is. By the way, there's no study that could show that a trans woman is more likely to commit a crime in a bathroom than a naturally born man. Listen, do I think it's weird to have a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old have transgender surgery? Yeah, I do. If I was a parent to an 8 or 10-year-old, I would not, at least at a minimum, wait till they go through puberty. I agree. But here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to tell other parents what to do. And what I don't like is misinformation.
Nope.
Okay,
So
well,
then
hold on.
you
Let me
think
just
it's
finish
okay
my
for
point.
a parent to kill their kid?
A what?
Is it okay for a parent to kill their kid? You don't want to tell them what to do. You just said
beat
that.
him or hit him.
Killing your kid is against the law. Killing your kid is murder. Right now, there are laws. For example, Donald Trump said kids are being dropped off at school and they're coming back another gender. Now that might be funny to you, but that's a lie. And unfortunately, some people believe it. Okay. Here's how it works.
Because there's some truth to it.
Okay. Name me one example. Again, I just want facts. Hold on.
Brian, you're
Hold
never
on.
gonna convince them. You're never gonna.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I didn't say. Hold on. I didn't say.
I'm ready to give you the law.
I didn't say name a state. I said give me one example in this country. What Donald Trump said, which was parents dropped off their kid at school, and then the next day they came home another gender. You know that's a lie. That's not happening in this country. That's a lie. And the reason why I brought up.
You taking this word
listen, if you guys could give me an example of that, I'm all
we're
ears.
prepared to give it to you. Go ahead, Volker. Give the example, and then I'll give mine. If it's not what I'm thinking.
You're taking what he's saying literally. What he's saying, there are laws in place that allow this. Minnesota, Tim Walz, which is the main reason why I would never vote for him or Kamala, but he has a sanctuary law that if a kid can make it to the state of Minnesota, if I had my kids in Missouri and my kid is able to make it to Minnesota, they protect that kid. I can't go there and get my kid because it's illegal there. They can do whatever they want. They got an uncle or auntie that is ready to allow them to have puberty blockers or whatever it is. They will allow it, and they will stop me from getting my kid. And if I
that's not how it works, though. That's not how
exactly how it works.
So a kid can't just show up in a hospital and say, I want to be a boy or I want to be a girl. They have to go and speak to professionals. They have to have consent at a certain age to be able to do that.
Right. What I'm saying is that's protection. The state, if they got somebody to stay with, to keep them, Minnesota will not prosecute. That's why it's called a sanctuary state.
Brian, let me interject. It doesn't matter. They got H-1B1 visas. The MAGA doesn't care. They don't care. They wanted immigration stop, but now we got the Indians getting the jobs. They don't care. They like you.
Listen
Trump
to what we're talking about.
How do we don't care? When you can go look it up. Go look up Minnesota sanctuary. It is literally called a sanctuary law.
What do you think is more harmful to kids in this country, transgender surgery or gun violence?
Probably.
What do you think is more likely to happen?
Wrong. Gun violence is the #1 cause of deaths in kids 16 and under. Transgender surgery, not even close.
What does the two have to do? Like when y'all try to
I'll
combine
explain.
it
I'll
has
explain.
nothing to do with anything.
I'll explain. Good question. I'll give you the answer. The Republican Party constantly talks about transgenders and transgender surgery to minors. The #1 cause of death in children under the age of 16, you could look this up, for the last 8 years, are kids getting gunned down in schools. There are no new laws being put on the books to protect children when it comes to gun violence. But yet when it comes to transgender surgery, it's all you hear about from the far right. Why did I bring up Nancy Mace? I'll tell you why.
Right.
To answer your question, Nancy Mace tweeted hundreds of times about trans women in bathrooms and how it's such a threat when, again, there's no evidence that a trans woman is more likely to commit a crime in a bathroom than a straight man or straight woman. But yet after a school shooting, by the way, the #1 cause of death in children under the age of 16, after a school shooting, what does she do? Does she tweet about it hundreds of times? No. Thoughts and prayers, and they do nothing. So here's what I want. I want to protect our children like all of you. We all don't want innocent children to be harmed. You all seem like very nice people. We don't want innocent children to die. Guess what? Let's tackle the issues that are most important, in my opinion, the leading cause of death in kids, which is guns. What about healthcare? Kids that have cancer. Donald Trump does not have a replacement plan. He has concepts of a plan. Why is it we don't have good health care in this country for our kids, for our families? Why is it we have the most gun violence, second most in the world? We have more guns than people, 140 guns per 100 people. And all I hear from MAGA Republicans is talking about drag queen reading and how drag queens are going to rape your kids and they're going to mutilate your children. Why don't we talk about the real issues that are facing this country and stop it with these gender stories? It's crazy to me.
I've never met anyone, thank God. I've never met anyone that was affected by gun violence, thank God. But I have met, my daughter has kids in her class that come to school as Bobby and come back the next day as Christina. And then they come back as Bobby. They flip-flop between genders. And she doesn't understand it.
We were supposed to talk about anti-Semitism tonight, Brian. We definitely gonna have to bring you to go deeper into this. Nor did you have any more clips?
Somebody wants me to ask Brian about California Senate Bill SB 145. They said it means this. Have you heard about this? There's a bill to protect pedophiles whose victim is within a 10-year age gap of the perpetrator.
Okay, well, let me be clear on that. If you're a pedophile, and I don't like to throw that word around because a lot of people on one side of the aisle like to call people pedophiles, it's one of the worst, and that means you're attracted to kids. If you sexually assault anybody, let alone a child, I think you should get the death penalty. I am for capital punishment, okay, 100%. So any law that would defend a pedophile, because I'm unfamiliar with this law, I am absolutely 150% against, 100%. And I would like to think that most reasonable people would feel the same way about that. But
well, you know that they no longer call them pedophiles, Brian. They're minor attracted persons now.
Oh my
And you know,
God.
this is where the whole pushing the envelope, we're going towards children. This is why people have issues with it. Because first, this is what people think. First, it's the transgender stuff on the children. Then it's going to be, well, you're a minor attracted person. You're choosing your age. You're not really 35. You're really 15. So you can be with this 12-year-old girl. That's what people are fearful of.
I don't like to make the correlation between transgenders and pedophiles. Again, there's no evidence to suggest that.
Obviously not. No.
You don't have to.
Mhm.
They are. You don't have to. They are. They
Well,
trying to include it in the flag. Like you don't have to correlate, but they are trying to do it. That's why.
Who's they?
Yeah.
Who's they? Who's they?
Democratic Party.
So the entire hold on a second. The entire Democrat Party is defending pedophiles? What?
The alphabet community.
So the entire Democrat Party is defending
we said the alphabet community.
They have policies to protect people on that level, is what we're stating.
Yeah.
Okay,
not the whole left, but the alphabet community.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with any prominent Democrats that are trying to protect pedophiles. What I can tell you is this: we talk about sexual abuse and sexual assault and minors. And again, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind here on this panel. That's not. It's a good conversation.
Good.
But I don't try to change people's minds. I just give you my opinions. We voted in a guy who sexualized his own daughter. I want to ask you guys a question, okay?
For the second time. Gotta put that in there.
Howard Stern show. Donald Trump shows up on the Howard Stern show. He talks about when he owned pageants with teenage girls. He sexualized it and bragged about it and talked about how he went into these locker rooms with teenage girls, 15, 16 years old, and they were naked. Several of these women have talked about it and how horrible it was, and they didn't give him permission. Donald Trump sexualized it and talked about it on the Howard Stern show. Why would somebody who cares about young, in this case, young girls, vote for somebody like that? I don't understand. He bragged about it on the Howard Stern show. He sexualized his own daughter. If she wasn't my daughter, I would date her. He said, if you're flat, you can't be a 10. He bragged about looking at a bunch of 15 and 16-year-old girls naked without permission because he ran the pageants. You can look this up.
Send Nora the clip.
I have the clip. I have the clip. I know the clip he's referring to.
He bragged about it.
Imagine what Joe Biden said 40 years ago. He has a nasty mouth too, I've heard.
I was gonna say,
So
what did he say?
Bill Clinton had a 22-year-old under his desk for over a year.
Bill Clinton.
We're gonna
Bill Clinton. Sir, you just did whataboutism, but Bill Clinton is probably a rapist. Guess what? I don't defend that behavior. Why is it every time I mention something about Donald Trump, it always goes to what about Bill Clinton? Joe Biden has never said anywhere near the things that Donald Trump has said.
Let me correct you respectively. It's not that we always say something every time you mention Donald Trump. What it is that you always mention Donald Trump every time you say something.
Because he's the incoming president. I'll tell you why.
No.
I'll tell you why. Because he's the leader of the Republican Party. And last I checked, he's going to be president for the next 4 years. Bill Clinton is never.
Wasn't he the president before?
Was he the president before?
Yeah, like in 2016, didn't he run? Didn't he win in 2016?
Well, he was
good from 2016 to 2020, right? So.
Oh, really? When we were all locked up in our rooms and 5,000 people a day were dying of COVID, would you characterize that as us being good?
That was 2019, 2020. That was the end.
Okay, who was president of the United States when COVID hit the United States? Who was president?
Trump. Trump.
But
Thank
the
you.
leftists
When
try
we were
to
no, hold on. You
the
asked.
leftists
Who
try
said
to-
You asked.
who said don't close the country? Who said do not shut the country
Okay.
down?
Wait. Let me answer that. You just said. Let me answer that. Donald Trump, when he was in office, let the governors. He allowed the governors to decide who was going to shut down the country. Donald Trump gave the governors of every state. Why are you shaking your head? You could just look it up. Donald Trump gave the governors in every state responsibilities, whether they would shut down their state or not. He's the one who allowed them to do that. And he was vaccinated, by the way.
Do not shut the country down. If you shut the country down, we're going to be in an economic situation. That's
So
what
why
he
did
said.
Donald Trump allow the governors to do that then?
He said I'll put he said I'll shut China down. He didn't say shut our country down.
Okay, guys. Okay. Nora, go ahead. Close.
Okay, guys. So I'm gonna go around and we're gonna say closing thoughts. I think we should just wrap it up at this point. I don't know where we
Sorry,
go
I
from here.
hogged the mic. I apologize.
It's okay, but this is my closing thoughts that I want to say to Brian, and you can answer when it's your turn. We have a two-party system majority in this country. That's why I keep going back to the Democrats, because Donald Trump represents the Republicans. Also, Thursday night, thank you to Brian. Everybody, please go follow Brian and check him out. I really appreciate him coming. But Thursday night, we will be talking about Dr. Umar and what was it, Boger? What happened?
Brain fart also.
Oh, well, him and Charleston White, that'll be their end. Also, we'll be talking about Candace Owens being sued by the French Prime Minister. So we'll be going and doing a deep dive about that. Also, follow us on TikTok. We'll be live streaming tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Volker, go ahead with your closing thoughts.
I think my reason for voting was very important, even if it dealt with not wanting drag queens in the school with my kids. And I think hopefully, Brian, you could do something. I think there needs to be more emphasis on defining anti-Semitism. Like if it's studied, a guide, I think there needs to be something. If we don't come up with definitions and a guide to go by, everybody's going to get in their emotion and just caught, like people just getting accused of it without going through some type of trial. It's almost like sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is whatever is perceived by the person. There's like very little definition to it. And I think the same thing needs to be done with racism, because even in the Black community, from my experience, I go back and forth with Black people about what racism is. Nora knows we go personally on some things, and I'm like, why do we have to resort to the isms all the time? So I think if we're going to keep using the isms, there needs to be a defined law of what that ism is.
Slim.
Right.
First off, I want to say thank you, Brian, for bringing your
Thank you.
personality to the platform, man.
Yes,
I can
sir.
see why
When are you guys going to call into my show? That's what I want to know.
whenever you invite us, man, I'll be ready.
For
man.
real. I'll call in. We'll
be
call
ready,
in. That's
man.
not a problem.
On a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 1 as far as how heated we get on my show. So this was calm for me.
Good.
Good.
Hey, I love it, man. But
I do too.
You know, for the next time we get on here, we definitely gonna talk about some different topics, obviously. But yeah, man, shout out to the new party. Again, I love it. Each and every Tuesday, Thursday, we do the man cave on Monday with my man Volga up there. But yeah, and also shout out to my president, who actually won the president 3 times in my eyes. And yeah, I'm gonna just close it down with that.
Christmas on January 20th.
Hey.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Jenna, what's your closing thoughts?
Yes,
Oh,
this
boy.
was lovely. Brian, thank you for joining. Definitely am going to follow your page and listen to you. And I think I'll just say to Volger's comments, I just heard it. If you don't like someone because they're Jewish, that's anti-Semitism. I don't know. It's pretty simple. If you don't like someone for the color of their skin, that's racism. I just think it's pretty standard. You don't like someone based off their gender. That's like, I mean, it's just, that's what it is. So I think that's the definition. And I, again, keep imploring people to actually study the history of Israel and Palestine. Like, don't just go to even 1948. Go to 1500 BCE. That would be really great. God bless.
My closing thoughts would be The fact that it's 3 black men, Norris, Arab, and Jamaican, and 2 Jewish people, we're on here talking about politics. I think it's in the hands of the people, and that if we continue to do stuff, it's gonna like affect the country. My birthday is January 20th. I'm a Democrat. I won't be on Thursday night show. I'll be on vacation, but thank you, Brian, for coming, and thank you to the cast for always coming and helping out.
Ryan, this was really great. We would love to call it on your show. Just let me know. You have my contact, and support
Yeah.
Brian's show, guys, because his show is awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You want me to give my final remark?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm going to echo what that last gentleman just said. I think it's important to have these conversations. I think there are too many people that are afraid to talk politics with others because they disagree. Doesn't mean we're going to change people's minds, but I think it's important to have these conversations. Listen, I wish everybody would call out the orange orangutan, but not everybody feels the way I feel, so that's fine. There are some people that think Donald Trump won the 2020 election, just like Kyrie Irving thinks that the earth is flat. So, it is what it is. People are entitled to their opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts. That's what I try to say, but I always listen to people, whether I disagree with them or not. And I appreciate you guys having me on. And, these are the kind of conversations I have every day, and I enjoy having them. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it very much. So thank you.
For sure. Thank you, everybody. Like we always say, a new party, always vote.
Always vote. God bless
Hey,
everyone.
before we
Thank
leave,
you.
though, before we leave, are we doing the inauguration?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone watching, we will be doing the inauguration. Check us out on our channel, 11:30 a.m. We will be live streaming, ending at 1:30 p.m. promptly because it's also my daughter's birthday. What's the odds? January 20th.
It's gonna be the best birthday gift ever, Great. Best birthday gift ever. Yo, new president, boy.
Oh yeah.
If we didn't
Nora, I
have,
have a question. You said you're Christian. Donald Trump is charging $200,000 to pray with him on Inauguration Day. I was wondering if you were going to join that crowd.
I'm about $200,000.
I literally would if I could.
I really would if I could. In fact, if it wasn't for terrorism and the bang bang shoot 'em up folks, I really did want to go to the inauguration. But I'll tell you, I am a little fearful to go. I think it's going to be crazy. So, but yeah.
Michelle Obama won't be there. I know you guys are disappointed to hear that.
Yeah,
Well, I'll tell you my theory on her later. I got lots of those, but I'm usually right.
For sure.
Cool,
You guys
cool.
have a great night.
So yeah.
All right.
Have a good night.
Introducing the new party. We live stream every Tuesday and Thursday p.m. Eastern Standard Time.